Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Leading Adam. Today, we're going to dive into organizational belonging, what that is, and how you can take just 5 minutes to make someone's day a little brighter.
The Leading Adam podcast is hosted by me, Adam Binkard. I've spent the last 10 years researching how a healthy human experience is the key to innovation and student retention in education. And now I'm taking to the mic to share what I've learned. Hear how I've defied the odds and transformed from a landscaper to a national expert in student success in less than 10 years. Not an educator? That's okay. Stay tuned for entertaining stories and practical takeaways about leading self, leading leaders, and leading culture. The Leading Adam podcast is co-hosted by Erika Crabtree, produced by Chris Spangle, and sponsored by 240 Solutions. Connect with us at 240solutions.com. And I hope you'll stay tuned because together we can change the world.
Hey, Adam, here we are, episode 4.
This is his old hat.
You know what? It also happens to be late in the afternoon, and I'm already starting to think about the coffee that I'm going to get later on.
Well, we
I'm pretty
covered that in the
excited
beginning. Right. Coffee matters.
Coffee does matter.
Okay, so iced or hot for the afternoon?
Well, it's warm outside, so it's going to be iced.
Yeah. Okay, so
For
you
sure.
like it pretty fluffy? What do you do in iced?
I still like to taste the coffee flavor.
Same.
So a little bit of flavor, maybe hazelnut or vanilla,
Okay. All right.
some oat milk,
Okay.
nothing too crazy.
What size?
Big.
Just big.
I just want the largest.
When you order that at Starbucks, are they like, ma'am, we don't have that?
Right.
First trip I ever took to Starbucks, I didn't start drinking coffee context till I was almost 32 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So first trip I took to Starbucks was with a close friend, and I didn't know. I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm hearing all this noise. I have no idea. I said, "You just order for me." Well, she ordered me some sort of latte frappe BS.
Right.
It was terrible. I finished it anyway because I really appreciate this friend. But the next time I went back, I'm like, I'm just going to get black coffee. So I'm rolling through the drive-thru. I'm by myself. And I'm like, I just want a medium black coffee. And she says, what? I said, I just want a medium black coffee.
Seems so simple.
It's so simple. This girl couldn't get it. First of all, medium didn't translate in her world.
Yeah.
She said she wanted a grande. Well, I'm pretty sure that means large in Spanish. I apologize for all the Spanish-speaking listeners. No, I want a medium. She couldn't get there.
Yeah.
But she couldn't understand black. You don't want anything in it? Nothing. Yes, coffee. That's what I want.
Just pure coffee.
I'm with you. My iced coffee, though, my afternoon treat is always iced coffee with just a little bit of heavy cream.
Oh.
I don't like the sweetener.
Right.
But, you get all variations of that when you order it.
That's
Sometimes it comes out looking more like milk. Too much.
Depends on which one you go to, right? It's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
How about we get coffee after this then?
That sounds amazing.
All right. Well, let's do this then.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm excited about today's episode because in the last episode, we talked a little bit about human experience, how that's different from employee engagement.
Right.
And not that benefits and things like that aren't important because they are, but human experience is about that feeling that employees get when they're at work and how they feel.
Yeah.
Belonging, vulnerability, shared purpose. And today we're going to dive into belonging.
Belonging. Yeah. I was thinking as we watch back over the tape, you go through the editing process, and I was thinking, what we didn't really get to in this idea and comparing the human experience in these three things, belonging, vulnerability, and shared purpose, to employee engagement, which is our benefits package, our salary, our flex schedules. What we didn't really say that I think is a great analogy is that it's like one is like burning jet fuel and the other is like burning diesel. And for all of you who aren't motorheads, jet fuel burns really hot and really fast. And so it kind of has this diminishing return very quickly unless you have more jet fuel. Whereas diesel fuel burns really slow and consistent, and so you get a longer run from it. And so that's why our tractors, who need like high torque, right, and longevity out there in the heat, they run on diesel. They're not running on jet fuel. And I think there's a similarity there, right?
Yeah.
It's the human experience is a sustainable investment into the improvement of things like productivity and profitability, or in the case that we're most passionate about, student retention.
Right.
It is the thing that's sustainable because humans are behind all of the things that drive that. You know, whether it's in instruction or whether it's your accountant running your accounting for the student,
Right.
or it's advising or whatever the case. So, yeah, getting into belonging today will be hopefully detailed enough that people can see practicality in it, but not so detailed that we lose people.
Right. And belonging is one of those words that it's not a new word, probably to any of us.
Right.
I could make some assumptions about what that means within an organization or in an educational context. But dive into a little bit about what does that mean for the human experience? How does that relate?
Yeah, well, let's dive into it this way. Let me just kick it back to you. If there's ever a moment where you're like, I belong here.
Yeah.
What might prompt you to say that? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing that would drive you to feel like, or to say, I belong here?
Yeah. Definitely felt like that in work context or not outside of work, but I feel like I'm within a group of people where I feel safe. I feel like I'm seen. I feel like it's safe for me to share my ideas, but also to share values with the people that I'm around. I feel like I want to be there. I like being in the context of those that I'm around in that environment.
Yeah, you almost, in a lot of ways, you see comfort and you see yourself reflected in those nearest you. And I think no better example, than, if you've ever been to a networking event, they're awful.
Right. No one's comfortable. Right?
Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? Whoever created these, they need to be sent to Guantanamo or something. Is that allowed? Can I say Guantanamo?
Why not?
No, I mean, for real, networking thing. Do they work? They're so stressful.
They are very stressful. Yeah, very stressful. I think they work for some people.
They work for some people. It ain't this guy. And I can tell you, it's not because I'm shy. You know, I'm outgoing. I'm gregarious. I can be loud. But the contrast, the example I'm trying to draw is how I feel in that moment to when I walk through the door at home. Or I even, if I'm at a networking event that happens to be tied to a conference, we finish the networking event and I get the opportunity to go to dinner with my team.
Right.
That feeling right there is belonging.
Yeah.
Right. To put it in a way to where I can understand it here, but I can also feel it in my gut. That's that moment where I can go,
yes, I'm getting invited. People get me.
Yeah.
That feels really good.
There's no pretense, right? I'm not here putting on a facade or a show, stretching myself beyond what's comfortable all the time.
And because in those moments you feel like you can show up as yourself.
Yeah.
Compared to a networking event where you're clutching whatever beverage they're serving and you're hoping that,
You're hoping that I can get my business card to you before you hand me yours.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think starting there with belonging is important because, like you said, Erika, belonging is not a new word. This isn't a new term. Although I think we Americans like to label things and then we popularize that thing and we all act like we understand it. And then we move on.
Right.
And we label a new thing. Right. And so I don't know. I could go down a list of 100 things probably that we've done that to. Servant leadership is one at the top for me. I mean, geez, that just like hit. I'm a servant leader and nobody knew what the hell that meant.
Right.
Like, stop saying that if you're not actually serve people. You know, just because you said it doesn't make you servant leader.
Right. I was, as many times as I've heard that, I don't know that I've ever really seen a leader come out and execute that very well.
Yeah. I think the ironic part of that is a true servant leader would never say, I'm a servant leader. Right. But again, just an example, I think we did that with belonging.
Yeah.
It was popularized. We get it. People need to feel like they belong. Diversity, equity, inclusion, right down the same path. We don't really understand it. We just keep saying the words over and over again. And it makes us feel better because at least we're talking about it. Well, this requires belonging to enhance an organization's belonging takes more than saying the words. And I think the first part of that is really cooking it down to something I can understand. Because the initial thing is we want our people to belong, we want them to feel a part of a community. Awesome. I'm going to buy everybody lunch. I mean, how many lunches have you sat through and never had a conversation with a soul?
Right. Or everybody gets the lunch and goes back to their desk.
Even
and
better.
Eats it by themselves.
Thanks, boss.
Right.
Donuts, number one thing. They get set in the kitchen. People come in, they get their donut.
Yeah.
They sneak a second, when you didn't see it.
Absolutely.
And they go back to their space.
Yeah.
And at the end of that experience, what did you do? You spent $15 and upped everyone's blood sugar.
Right.
But you didn't actually enhance belonging.
Yeah.
But when we see it in this context of a place where I can breathe, a place where I can be me, it provokes and demands of a leader differently, and that there's a lot behind that. But I think the first part of that is just understanding belonging, and the part is community.
Yeah. And in that space, it makes me think of, even extracurricular type activities I've done in the past and things where you feel like if me as an individual, if someone isn't there, that person is missed.
Yeah.
It's noticeable.
Yeah.
And in a work environment, we can get just so in our tasks and in our day to day, and that becomes the focus, and you start to kind of forget that there's a human being behind there. And those moments where you feel like, man, if I'm not here, it's not just the work that I do that I miss, but me as a person I missed, or that person is gone. I noticed that they're not here because I miss them as a person. And that's huge.
Well, I think just take it to the student. The student is experiencing stressors, whether they're traditional student or adult online learners, or some sort of hybrid in between. They're experiencing stressors that are outside of their norm.
Yeah.
And ultimately, those stressors, when applied over the course of time, start to make me feel like I'm out of place, right? What we do as humans is we look around the room and go, no one else is feeling this. Right now, suddenly I become the only one, and we go down this path in our thinking where I don't fit here. But when an instructor just pauses because they missed last week to acknowledge, hey, Angela, we missed you last week. Glad you're back. That's it. It doesn't take a lot. Right. But I think it's consistent behavior over time.
Absolutely.
Right. If I hear that from my professor once in a semester, probably meaningless. Right. But if I start to maybe get a follow-up email. Missed you in class today. Looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday, or whatever. I think we start to believe it.
Yeah.
So I just think going to the student level, it's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you feel like that with belonging, does that extend to feedback, communication, the way that a team communicates with each other? I think of, especially again, I mentioned earlier, I struggled with being in a fully remote environment. It's not my favorite. I like to see people. I like to interact with people face to face. So having the virtual environment completely was really a struggle for me.
Right.
But I think what I've learned and what I've had to really be more intentional about is, really reaching out, being really specific about, sharing with others and reaching out to individuals.
Yeah.
And not just a group blast.
Yeah.
Like that has a time and place as well, but being at the individual level and saying, hey, Britt, I really appreciate that way that you asked that question. I was thinking that too. I'm so glad you were the first one to ask that.
Right.
Because now I have these other questions. But yeah, just being really specific, or, hey, I noticed that this happened and, this can be better, or you might have an easier time with this if try this instead, or here's that resource. I noticed you had a question. I know where that resource is, but being really specific and kind of at that individual level, and then vice versa too, back at the leader, having that same frequency of feedback, positive and constructive, consistently.
Yeah. Well, and I think
that feeling.
It's the specificity.
Right.
That makes
That's
the
key.
difference.
Right.
It's key. And from a leader's context, we often will come in because we're trying to get our stuff and go, man, Erika, glad you're here. And you move on, and Erika's going, why are you glad I'm here?
Right.
And that's what you're saying. But I think we also take it to this bit where, okay, we aren't specific, but we also avoid anything constructive. And in reality, let's go back to the family. Why do I know I belong in my family? Because my kids aren't afraid to tell me, Dad, you're breathing too loud.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. Are you saying I'm breathing too loud? No, you get what I'm saying.
Yes,
it's not always, man, Dad, you're father of the year.
You're great.
Yeah, it's actually, I hear that probably less. But it's the willingness to say you can be better. Right. Or try this is what you're saying. And that happening across team member to team member is one level, but a leader needs to invest there as well. So I think feedback is powerful part of belonging, because what we haven't said yet is when we measure belonging in the diagnostic, what we're looking for is really two parts. One is a sense of community, a sense of shared values, those things you described. And the other side of it, though, is that I see a future with this team, with this organization, whatever the best context is. When we apply structured and consistent feedback processes, we give that opportunity to invest, to say, your future here looks like this. And I think we fail miserably at that oftentimes as leaders, because you think, well, I can't give them a promotion. Right. That's not even what we're talking about. It's taking a specific thing and saying, when you do this, it impacts me positively this way. And I would like to see more of that. And that connects something in the synapses of our brain that says, for you to be successful, you need me to do this. That means I matter. Right. And if we were to sum up the human experience, those three things, belonging, vulnerability, shared purpose, what we're all trying to answer is, do I matter? Right. And anytime we can resolve that question, even in small ways, we're winning as a leader. So feedback, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Makes sense. And it made me think of, as a student, that knowing that there's a future, that future is graduation, right?
Yeah.
What a better future than walking across a stage
Yeah.
at the end of graduation.
Well, what I thought you were going to say is in the research that we were doing and what we discovered when we were in our pursuit to improve student outcomes is how often we heard when my instructor gives me feedback. It's almost this craving of a student saying, I want to grow. I can't do that if you don't give me feedback.
Right.
And he, kind of like we were saying in last episode with the challenge, is that you look in, chances are if you're experiencing it, if you're feeling it, someone else around you as well. So look for it, right? And then speak to it, try to resolve it. Well, I think the adverse side of that is we do that with feedback. And we go, I don't give it because I don't want to do it wrong.
Right.
I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I personally don't want to hear other people's opinions right now. And so we assert those things to other people.
Sure.
But all of the research we've done with the groups we've done work with for effective feedback, we do training for that. All of the groups love it because they come out of it feeling competent.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, if I knew that's how the recipient of effective feedback felt, I would do it.
Right.
But we don't go there, right? We don't realize that they see I matter to you enough for you to say, I need you to improve here.
Right.
Right. And so it's not always just you're so good at this, Erika. Keep doing this.
Right.
It's not fluffy.
Right.
And I will preach that till I'm dead.
Yeah.
Right? It's not fluffy.
And as someone who, I'm constantly trying to think of, okay, how can I be even better at this? How can I do better? How can I be better? How can I perform better? That kind of general, you're doing great, starts to really just become background noise.
I think patronizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And, but I think top performers, I think really just employees who care, who want to do a good job. They want both kinds. And the constructive feedback that you're doing great about this specific thing helps reinforce their strengths and what they know that they're good at in their job and what what they want to continue doing. But having that constructive feedback helps refine what it is. And it is so important. And that feels really good when you have constructive feedback even and you apply it and that
I had
so positive.
I had a handful of coworkers. We'll just leave it at that. They were peers and some even above me in the organization. In a role that I filled, and they had what I regularly called patronizing joy. Because you show up to a thing, it's like, Adam, I love you. It's so good to see you. All right. That's not what you said to Tommy over here. Like, you know what I mean? And at some point you're going, that's total crap. You're being fake. At some point, the generalized feedback does start to feel patronizing because I start to question the competence of my leader, first of all, because you must not be intelligent enough to think of something else to say, or you're not observant enough to see how brilliant I am. Right. And that sounds really arrogant, but if we're all honest with ourselves, we're really good at what we do and we want somebody to point it out. Right. When someone doesn't, it's offensive to a degree. Right. So I don't know. It just made me think of that occurrence, patronizing joy. But as we look at like how do we apply this, I really think it can be simple. Right, we've talked about some more difficult things, right? I mean, I may be a middle manager, and I can't influence the way our feedback structures are done in my organization, but that doesn't relinquish me the responsibility I have to attend to the humanity in my team. How do we do that outside of policy? Right? How does that look? And I think the simplest thing to do, because not everybody is as quick thinking as I am, right? I mean, I can generally hit stuff like this. I think the easiest thing to do, and it fits all personalities, is a simple handwritten card. You know, and I think we've done. In fact, you were involved in it. We had put together this leadership academy in the organization we were in, and as a part of that, we created these care kits for leaders. Yes. And in it, we had these cards that they could write, and it gave them a sample card. And you think, man, did we really have to give them a sample card? But we did, because we didn't want people to just write, "Thanks, Susie, for being here." Right. Not helpful. So we gave them a framework, and that framework sounded a little bit something like this. And that would be the challenge for those listening: is write a specific card. First of all, address it to the person you're writing. Let's use that person's name's Chris. You would write, "Chris, thank you for doing whatever it is. It made me feel whatever you felt. I'm glad you're here." It's really simple. But what we're going to really, if we want to break it down, is you're calling them by name. We're giving a data point, the thing they did. We're giving an impact statement, how it impacted me. And then we're giving them gratitude. It is the most simple formula for helping someone feel like they matter in your team. It's not rocket science.
And say, if you can't do a handwritten card, obviously that's a great way. Mail it if you can. But even a chat, a message, an email. Email is great because you can save it. As the employee can save it once they get that. But yeah, just a simple message. It seems so simple. It takes 5 minutes.
Simple. Yeah. But we approach it like you just asked me to hire a skywriter. You know what I mean?
Right. I got to carve out an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is simple. That's the challenge. Just do it.
Just do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. We're done.
Episode 4. It's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here at the Leading Adam podcast. We hope you found inspiration and hope to see you again next time. Leave us a comment on YouTube, or if you have an idea for a future episode, let us know that too. You can connect with us at 240solutions.com. Thanks, and we hope to see you again next time.